Good afternoon, everybody. One more time. Good afternoon, everybody. Can anyone hear me?
Good afternoon.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, John. Okay, now let's continue in our recording. Let's minimize that for now. Has anyone has issue with the materials so far? Anything you didn't understand? Anything you read and you didn't understood? Yes, no? Okay. Let's start for today's lecture. And what we will cover today, we will focus on virtualization, the concept of virtualization. Then we will move to something called VirtNet, how we use the virtualization in this unit, or in another couple units you will go through. So what's exactly the virtualization, and what is the benefit, advantage, disadvantage, the cons and pros for the virtualization? To understand the approach or why we came to the virtualization, you need to understand the old structure of networking. And let's start with the structure of the device itself. What we usually used to have, we used to have something like this. Before virtualizations, usually what we used to do, let me take you to little bit history. We have a PC. That PC usually has a motherboard, the motherboard connected to hard disk. So you have a RAM, ROM, CPU, graphical user card, and so on. Okay, so for example, you have this is, let's say, 1 TB hard disk. That's 1 TB hard disk. And now you have one operating system, which is Windows, let's say Windows at that time, Windows 95 or Windows 98 or 2000. Now it consume or it take or to reserve the whole hard disk and the CPU, all the CPU, the whole CPU, the RAM, whatever the RAM is, the graphical user interface and everything, the card, everything serve one operating system only and one user only. Then they improved that and they said, okay, we can install multi-operating system. So when you turn on, that's the C drive, for example, that's C drive. When you turn it on, you have Windows 95. They improved that and they said, okay, here it is. You can install more than one operating system in the same hard drive. However, what you do, you need to break down that this is the 1 TB hard disk, let's say. Break it down into, for example, 200, 400, 400, 200, like that, gig. Then over here, put Windows 95. Here you can put Windows 2000. Maybe here, if you want, you can put XP. You can put over here 98, version 98, whatever it is. Right. So I have 4 operating system. Yes. Can I use 4 of them? No. At the same time? No. So how that works? Oh, we have something called hot boot. Hot boot means when you turn on the device, the PC, the server, wherever it is, it's gonna come to you with a list, a blacklist that has 1, 2, 3, 4. It asks you. 1 is 190 is 95, number 2 is 2000, number 3 is XP, number 4 is whatever. Now you choose. So, okay, I want to work on Microsoft 2000. So you click 2000, it load from that section. What about the others? No, you can't. So you can use one operating system at a time, and that operating system use all RAM, all memory, everything, whatever it is. And sure, the CPU. And all the allocated RAM. But that's not helping much. Then we came to the beginning of virtualization, and that was perfect. What is the beginning of virtualization exactly? Here it is. I have one hardware set. What is that? Oh, okay. I have a hard disk. That hard disk, 1 TB. Then I have a network card. I have ROM. I have RAM. I have GPU. I have CPU, whatever it is. All right. So we want to run multi-operating system at the same time. Really, yes. So we want to run those ones. For example, if you look, this is the Oracle VirtualBox, which I have. I can run those all of them at the same time. Really, yes. So how we do that? We came to put in the top of the hardware. This is the hardware layer. That hardware layer has hard disk, whatever the hard disk size you want, has CPU or GPU or whatever it is, has RAM, has whatever it is, network card, sure, and so on. Okay, so now I want to run multi-operating system. So for example, I want to run here, let's say, I want to run here Windows 7. And over here, I want to run Windows 8. And at the same time, I want to run Windows 10. Another one, I want to run Windows 11. Another one, I want to run, for example, 2022 server, whatever it is. Here, I want to run Linux. Really, yes, and so on. Can I run all of them at the same time, and I can manage all of them? Yes, we came to something, we had to put a layer. We call it in Windows Hyper-V, which is this area. We call it Hyper-V in Windows. That area, which is that layer, that's the layer which I can manage and distribute these hardware to work to create virtual operating systems. Virtual. We call that container. Container means what? Okay, here it is. This is let's say I have 1 terabyte. And the CPU, let's say we have 5 gig. And the RAM, let's say we have 64 gig of RAM. I want to run this one. All right, no problem. Let's give this one 50 gig of hard disk. Distribute. And this one, I'm going to give it 50. This one, I'm going to give it 60. This one, I'm going to give it 100. That one, I want to give it 150. This one, I'm going to give it 80 as a hard disk. From the CPU, this one, I'm going to give it half gig. This one, 1 gig. This one, half gig. This one, 1.5 gig, and so on. Distribute. That's the hypervisor. We call that the hypervisor or Hyper-V. So that Hyper-V as a software, take over the hardware resources and can manage those hardware resources to produce a virtual services to the operating system. Really? Yes. Can you give us an example of that? Here. That's one of them. The Oracle VirtualBox. Another one. Here it is. That's the VMware. Really? Yes. We have many. So those ones, some of it free, some of them free, some of them actually paid. You have to pay for that. So the whole idea of Oracle VirtualBox or VMware, it works as a layer between the hardware, which is we call that the host, which is my computer or your computer, that's the host, and the operating system I want to run. At the end of the unit, today's lecture, I'm going to show you a quick demo how we create virtual network in an easy task. However, that's the whole concept about virtualization. Virtualization, sure, you have many of those definitions. I don't want you actually to memorize much definitions, but try to understand the concept. When they said that that's the abstraction, the network, for example, the virtual network, that's the abstraction. Abstraction means the representation of the resources. So if you want to underline the hardware and to keep operating system at the top, and hardware, you need to put something inside between them. And this is the layer of virtualization, Hyper-V or hypervisor. That's the definition of the virtual network. I don't want you to memorize things much, really, but just keep understanding the concept. Virtual network, logical representation, easy as that, of the network. So it's a network, yes, but instead of building that network using real hardware, we build a real network as well, but we using software. When we mention that in general, in normal network, when we want to build a network, what we usually do, or what we usually use to do, we buy routers, switches, different switches, layer 2, layer 3. We buy hubs. We buy have devices, PCs, whatever it is. We buy, sure, network adapters. And we buy GPUs, we buy whatever in if you want to build devices. Really, yes. Now actually we don't. Now we do not have to buy all those ones. Really, yes. Virtualization create for us, you can create a virtual router, a virtual switch, a virtual PC for users, desktops, virtual operating system, virtual NIC, virtual. Really, yes. So it's actually we moved from a hardware basic or a hardware base into a software base. So virtualization is like that. It's we move from hardware based devices to software based devices. Oh, so it means that everything becomes software. No, it's not. Software cannot work by itself unless if you have a hardware. So in reality, in general, we have to have a hardware here. That's hardware to support the creation of the software for virtualization. So without hardware, we will not be able to create routers. Really, yes. So I need a hardware to be able to create a virtual router, a virtual switch, a virtual. So still we need a hardware, but I do not need a router hardware. I do not need a switch hardware, but we need what we call that the infrastructure, hardware infrastructure. And that's another story. So the concept of virtualization, it starts like this. We have hardware. In the top of the hardware, you need to put operating system. In the top of operating system, you need to put application, which I believe that's all of you familiar with that concept. Whatever the application you have in your computer, you have to have an operating system first to be able to put the application on the top of that. Now, what we do, we have the hardware first. Then in the top of the hardware, we usually have the hypervisor, whatever the software you are using. In VMware, for example, we're using something called ESXi, the same thing, very professional one. That's not the workstation like this. No. There is a professional one. This is the workstation. So we use that as a second level. But the first level, we have something called ESXi, which is exam professional for corporate. At the top of that, we can generate, you see that those hardware, the big hardware, we can break those ones into smaller versions. We can create whatever we allocate, whatever we want to allocate. In the top of each one, I can put operating system, different operating system, whatever you like. Then on top of that, you can have, as you can see here, application. Easy as that. Yes, easy as that. So we call that a container. So you can create something on your own. Container means you have, in your term, you call it folder. So that container, it has the hardware and the software of your operating system, of your machine. So for example, this is mine. If I went over, this is Kali Linux, or this one, for example, GNS3, the one you are familiar with. That one, if you go inside that folder, we call that container because it has everything about that machine. It has the hardware, it has the software, it has the setting, the networking, and everything. What else we have? I got you something, some of those materials just only to be able to understand how it works. That's virtual machines. Usually, as you can see, that the hypervisors over here, those ones are the physical, the other way around, like we are flip it over. That's the physical usually. And for massive network, you have a massive network here. You have what we call physical switch. The physical switch usually in the top of that you have racks and or connected to racks. The racks has a lot of hardware. And so those hardware, we can break those ones into different CPUs, different RAM, different storage, different. From the hypervisor here, that's the hypervisor, as you can see that, the ASXI, the KVM, the Hyper-V from Microsoft, and so on. We have quite few models of those ones. In the top of those ones, we can create what we call that container, as you can see here. That's operating system Linux, for example, and we can put the application on another operating system, Windows, whatever, in here. And that one, that container, can be copied, can be moved around, can be updated. For example, I create a storage which is 20 gig. Now I'm gonna make it 40. One click to make it 40. I want that the RAM, for example. I have created some of those my machines here. Let's say this one, I give it, let's say the network, the adapters. I give it, let's say here, just only 4 gig. I want to make this one 6 gig, 8 gig, whatever. Here it is. That's it. Click like that, okay, and done. Nothing more than that. Sure, I understand that to be able to increase the RAM, you have to have on the host enough RAM to increase the storage. So if I don't have in the host, if I don't have, let's say, 1 terabyte, how I'm gonna create 5 machines, for example, each one has 300 gig. It didn't work. So that's you need 1.5. So in short, you need to create something equal or less than little bit from what you have as resources. That's the virtual box. We try to mention to you something called VirtNet, which is virtual network. What is virtual network? As we cover for you here, can I create routers, switches, and devices and everything on a one single device? Actually, Cisco, yes, does that. Cisco, you have a device, and within that device, You can create inside that routers, switches, hubs, whatever, network card, devices, PCs, and everything. Okay, but those ones already created for us as similar to the Cisco Packet Tracer, for example. Something similar to that. It's already created in, or something similar to the GNS tree you work on. You have a router, as we gave you before. You have devices. That router, you drag it and you drop. Something like here, similar to that exactly. It's been already created like that. That's a router. Okay, that's a switch like that. So do we have something here? Can we manage to create as well virtual network? Even without, if I have a device, can I turn this device into router to work as a router? Yes, we do. A device to work as a switch? Yes, we do. We can do that as well as a open sources. How that works? Well, let me show you a topology like this. I'm going to show you in a demo how we do that, by the way. And you can do that with me if you want to. I'm happy with that. So this is the client, and that's 10.0.2.15. That's a router between, and that's a server. You have seen that topology before in week 3. So that's a client, a server, and between both of them, a router. That's network A, that's network B. So over here, as you can see, that the network adapter. So here we have 10.0.2.15, 10.0.2.15, 10.0.2.15. Okay, that's the bottom. What about the top? If I want to create two different network, I want network A here and network B here. What will be the router? Oh, okay. It will be the same, a device like this, but we modify that. How we do something like that? Okay, so if you want to do that on the VirtualBox, you have to create different network adapters. So since I need to be able to connect, so that device, for example, has to have, the router need to have two different interfaces. One interface facing that network and that interface facing that network. The router. The client has one interface, which is related to the router, that server one. So one interface. Here, I need two network interfaces in one device. So if you go for the client, I can create, for example, adapter, whatever, adapter number 2, and this is network A. And sure, network A has, we will allocate a different subnets. This is the router. That's network A, which is the link to that. That's internal network. That's a router, network B. Okay, and this is the server, network B. So what you try to do here? This is network A, there's no problem with that. That's network B, there is no problem with that. The only thing that device, or that the node, as we call it, it will have two different adapters. And that one, the routing is enabled already inside that device. So how we do something like that? In here, I believe it's okay. In Ubuntu, if you work on Ubuntu, you will have the .yaml. So if you want to see something like that, I maybe delete it, maybe I'm not sure. Let's go for here, Ubuntu. Okay, Let's go here. I'm going to show you that. We have files on the operating system called .yaml. And that one, you will see that inside something called netplan. Yes, this one may be different from one VM to another VM, from version to version, but it be the same thing. You will have that file. That file has a network, the Ethernet, some information about the network adapters, and sometimes it has IP addresses, sometimes it's not. If it's not configured, you will not have any. If it's configured, you will have something. We go inside and we change those ones into the YAML. That's what we will do this week and maybe next week as well in the tutorial. We will change, we'll do some modification to YAML. Can you see that? The file usually called YAML. Let me see if I remember the. Yep, still remember. Still remember. Let's go to the. What's inside the EC, the net. That's the one. Here, can you see this one? The net plan. So what's inside net plan? You see this file. So what we do, we can type nano like this and whatever that file name is. So as you can see that it starts with 90. If you type something like that, it's open like this. And from here, we start configuring and we do all the changes to that network adapters. However, I'm going to show you something easier and better than this one if we want to. So yes, you will, this week tutorial, you will have some modification for one of the files, the YAML files, but I'm going to show you that you do not need that for this lecture. How we do that that's if you want to have a port forwarding. That's all on Oracle VirtualBox. But if I want to do the VertNet, if you go back to the definition of the VertNet, let me just show you that maybe some. What is that? See this one? That's collection of software used to quickly create a virtual network. Okay, and how we do that? Using a set of scripts. Okay, can we see a demo or example of that? Yes, let me show you one of those, my demo, how we create. By the way, how we create that specifically, that topology, that one. So how we create something like that, it's here. Let me take you to the Oracle VirtualBox and let me take you as well to my download. In my download, I download something we call that base. Can you see this one? And the V script as well. So let me just go over here and extract that very quick. That's the one. And what's inside here? We want to focus on this one. Okay, I'm not going to run it. And at the same time, I will run this one as well. Let's go over here to extract some of those ones, which we call that the VN script. Yep, replace it, no problem. That's the script we have here inside. Now I'm going to go back here just only to make sure that everything here on. Let's go here for the base. Here it is. And here. Now let's go for this one, and I will add here, and let's go for the. We will not run this one. However, I'm gonna go for the VN script here. Let's go for the script number 5. That's I'm here. I'm gonna click like that. Oh.